Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the weekly watch list. I am your host, Jeff Kohler, the option addict from over at tradingaddicts.com. We'll start off with a little bit of market analysis, some things I'm watching for this week in particular. We'll dial myself down into about a 6-month chart here, just give you a bird's eye view of what's going on. We've been in the process here of making higher highs, and even though we've got some divergent indicators that have been kind of warning of a little bit of potential ongoing slight weakness going on underneath the tape, and I don't, the market's been every last bit of strong, but I'm paying real close attention to this divergence, looking to at least be cautious of the next potential pullback. Right now, heading into tomorrow, heading into this week, the 1080 highs in S&P cash index, 1077 in S&P futures, that was the level that was tested. That marked the low here on Friday, right? If that level's broken here, coming into tomorrow, maybe Tuesday, whatever, later this week, if that level's broken, I'm looking for a probably bigger pullback that takes us down to around 1050 or so, and I want to be positioned for that. So I'm watching this level, 1080. If that's broken, I want to at least ride the correction downward, hedge some of my long positions, place a couple of bearish bets. But right now you can see overnight that's where S&P futures are trading is about 1078 at this very moment. So imagine we're going to open up and that level is going to be under attack. So watch for that. If it gives way, you maybe hedge some of your long positions, get a little bit bearish, maybe take a position here too. But all I'd be looking for is at least a correction down to about 1050. So I've got a long list of good-looking stuff to get to tonight. So let's hit off the dips, the rips, the breakouts, the breakdowns, and my favorite, the $10 darlings. Take a look. All right, so back to the price patterns. A couple of themes I want to watch. Number one is the shippers. We can start off with Genco. We should probably start off with, as a matter of fact, Frontline, which I think has been a pretty good bellwether for the shippers. Dry Ships has too. It's had a little bit of volume, a little bit of price action, but Frontline here has just been absolutely money. And you can see prices breaking out of this consolidation pattern, taking out the 200-day moving average. They've been running. So GMR is the next one that's confirmed this nice little, you can call it a triple bottom. Right through here, broke out through this neckline. There's the three bottoms. You might even also look at this as just kind of a rounded bottom. That's prices are working their way up towards some of the highs. But this breakout big volume looks pretty good as well. I think that bodes well for a couple of them. Namely, I'm watching this GNK. That's the one that I pulled up here first. That's the pattern here that I'm looking at. This nice little consolidation pattern. Volume's been pretty active, but not until we see a break out, at least of these highs. Price has got to get up to about 21.5 or 22.5, 23 for me to get pretty excited about this, but maybe it's the next one to follow. If not Genco, keep an eye on Navios Maritime, and there it is. Just nice little consolidation pattern. Look for it to take out 525, and I think you're golden. A couple other things I want to look at. Number one is OSK, and you can see it's got some highs up here at about 35. Pattern of higher lows, a breakout taking out of 35. I think you got to get bullish. You got to buy that. Next, let's look at the agriculture stocks, and we'll use Mosaic here as just kind of the bellwether of the group. And I'll zoom out here a little bit. You can see this consolidation pattern. This has been the one spot of materials that I haven't wanted to touch whatsoever. If you've had any money here, you've noticed it's been really slow money. It's been dead money. The ag stocks really haven't participated much. Like crude oil wasn't able to take out its June highs, the ag stocks are kind of dealing with that same problem. Mosaic can be one of two things. Either this group plays a little bit of catch-up, we see a breakout, at which point I'd want to trade Mosaic. If not, that might be a wonderful rip to sell. And I look at a couple others like Potash. Take Potash, for example here, and it's coming across, a pretty decent base. I wouldn't want to buy this thing until it broke out, and even then I'd have a problem doing it. But prices are also at a unique reference point. And you'll notice that if you look over in my Sell the Rips list, you'll see Monsanto right there. That one I love. But who knows, maybe this little inverse head and shoulders pattern right down here at this bottom, maybe prices are able to crack out of that channel. But for right now, this is, they're approaching a setup which I haven't wanted to trade these in the past for the last few months. But now they're starting to come interesting to me because they show a pretty decent risk reward depending on which way they move this week. Next, I'm just going to get into a couple individual looking setups like PEG, Public Service Enterprise, the descending triangle right here, which ought to point to about a 10% move if it takes out its lows here at 30. Here's a real barn burner. You got McDonald's. I usually don't talk about stocks like this, but got this nice little rounded bottom pattern right through here, which I've been trading a lot of these in the small cap world. But also, if you scoot on back and look at this from a longer term perspective, McDonald's looks like it's getting to a point where it's ready to crack a real big pattern, that's been setting up for well over a year. So it's of interest to me now. It hasn't done much for the last year plus, but it might get to that point where it starts to do something. Here's an off-the-wall pick. Prosperity Bank Shares. And the only reason why is because that's a pretty clean-looking symmetrical pattern. That's a pretty clean-looking symmetrical triangle pattern, if you ask me, especially right around earnings. I'd look for a pop in that little stock. If you want to get bearish, take a look at Valmont, VMI. Look at the triple top here. And a real interesting breakdown intraday, and prices closed right back here. I usually don't trade these until they break out of this anyway. So to see the weakness and prices popped right back up to 80, if we see prices a little bit heavy on Monday morning, then I think this is a wonderful setup. Next, you've got Shaw Group. Same thing. The problem is I don't know if we'll see a little bit of a profit taking by some of the shorts that just smoked this thing on Friday. But if you do, I'd want to see it at least up into the range of, I love it at 30. Here it's really tough. I'm not going to trade it until I at least get a 7 to 8% correction back towards the upside. But that's a really good pattern. If I'm looking for something to get bearish on in this market, I'm looking at a stock like Shaw that's been flat or hasn't been able to take out its highs all year. And I think that's a great setup so long as we get some upside price action to get into it. Next, you've got ticker symbol X, U.S. Steel. And this one's kind of a tough one for me because steel in general, if you take a look at the SLX steel stocks have been trading really well. But nonetheless, I'm not a big fan of materials in general right here. And you've got the head and shoulders pattern in U.S. Steel at a pretty manageable spot. Stock was pretty heavy, but I'd look for a breakdown of this neckline. And if that happens, this pattern suggests it's good for about a 10-point move. So I like the way that's setting up. But perhaps if you don't want to go into materials, you don't want to bet against steel, go to the life insurance stocks like your MetLife. And take a look at MetLife. It's got a pretty similar pattern through here. Case of lower highs over the last 3 weeks or so. Shoulder, head, shoulder, neckline. Look for a breakdown of that. If you don't like MetLife, you might like Prudential. Same thing, right? Same industry, same pattern. What about Principal? PFG. Not exactly life insurance, but you've got the same looking pattern right through here. So neckline pretty consistent. Something to watch for a breakdown later this week. A couple other setups I'm looking at. AIG. Man, I don't know if I have the stones to trade this one or not, but I like what it's doing here. It's a stock that scares me, but it's a stock that's coiling up for a gigantic move. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see something happen this week. But yeah, I wouldn't trade this until prices broke out of this pattern in one direction or the other. The REITs were the top dollar loss candidate on Friday, and Cali Mac has got a wonderful pattern there. Shoulder, head, shoulder. I could take it here looking for a breakdown. I've already got a position in the IYR, which you'll also see in my bearish bets for this week. But I like the setup here in Mac Cali Realty Corp. One of my next favorites is WFR, descending triangle. Again, if I'm looking for a stock to short, it's one that has just piss poor for performance. And looking at WFR, it's done absolutely nothing this year compared to, go back to last year's lows. I mean, it's it's nasty. So a breakdown here, I think the stock makes an easy run to 10, and that's something I'd look at with some longer dated options. A couple others, I'd anticipate this little triple top here in the FXI. That relationship between U.S. and China. China hasn't been as strong here lately. I think that's a manageable spot up here near these highs if you're going to give it a shot. Last one's FRT. Actually, that is the last one. Head and shoulder pattern, same thing. Looking for shoulder, head, shoulder, neckline breakdown. So there it is. So folks, I know I've kind of gone over in time here, so thank you for watching as always. This has been The Option Addict. That's been my watch list. You guys have a great week. Take care.
He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis. Stay thirsty, my friends.